The rain hammered against the metal walkways of Port Meridian with a rhythm Marcus Webb had grown to hate. It reminded him of funeral drums, of the day 3 years ago when they'd lowered Catherine's casket into the frozen ground of Earth. He pulled his jacket tighter and quickened his pace, boots splashing through shallow puddles that reflected the neon signs of the colony's market district. His shift at the construction site had run late again. 16 hours of welding support beams for the new residential tower, his back aching, his hands raw even through the gloves. The pay was decent enough for a widower with no dependents, enough to keep his small apartment and put food on a table meant for one. The shortcut through the industrial alley would save him 10 minutes. Marcus turned between two warehouses, their walls streaked with rust and graffiti in a dozen alien languages. The rain was lighter here, blocked by the overhanging structures, but the darkness was thicker. He was halfway through when he heard it. A whimper. Soft, broken, almost swallowed by the distant hum of the station's life support systems. Marcus stopped. His first instinct was to keep walking. Port Meridian wasn't the kind of place where you investigated strange sounds in dark alleys. But something in that sound, a quality of helplessness, of pure fear, made him turn back. "Hello?" His voice echoed off the metal walls. The whimpering stopped. Then, silence. Marcus pulled out his pocket light and swept it across the alley. Boxes, discarded equipment, a broken loader bot missing half its parts. Nothing unusual. He was about to turn away when the light caught something else. A reflection. 2 large eyes, luminescent in the darkness, watching him from behind a stack of crates. "It's okay," he said softly, approaching slowly. "I won't hurt you." The eyes blinked. A small figure shifted, trying to press further into the shadows. Marcus knelt down, keeping his distance. "Are you lost?" A tiny voice emerged, barely above a whisper. "Please, go away." "I can't do that," Marcus said. "Not if you're hurt. Not hurt. Hiding." Marcus's chest tightened. The voice was young. A child. He lowered the light so it wouldn't shine directly in those frightened eyes. "Hiding from what?" No answer. "I have food," Marcus offered, reaching into his lunch bag. He still had half a protein bar left. He unwrapped it slowly and set it on the ground between them. "You can have it." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, gradually, a small hand emerged from the shadows. The skin was silver, almost metallic in the dim light, with tiny scales that caught and refracted even the smallest bit of illumination. The hand grabbed the food and retreated. Marcus heard the sound of desperate eating quick, hungry, the kind that spoke of days without meals. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Silence. Then, so quietly he almost missed it. "Nira." "Nira. That's a pretty name." Marcus shifted, his knees protesting. "I'm Marcus." "Where are your parents, Nira?" The eating stopped. "Gone." "Gone where?" "Don't know. Mama said hide. Said she'd come back, but—" The small voice cracked. That was so many sleeps ago. Marcus felt something twist in his gut. He'd seen enough of the galaxy's cruelty to know what gone often meant in places like this. "How many sleeps?" 10, maybe more. I stopped counting. 10 days. This child had been alone in this alley for 10 days. "Nira, I live near here. It's warm, clean, safe. You can stay the night, just until we figure out what to do. Would that be okay? You take me to the bad people?" "No," Marcus said firmly. "I promise. No bad people. Mama said humans sometimes good, sometimes bad. How I know which you are?" Marcus thought for a moment. "I guess you don't. But I'm asking, not taking. That's a start, isn't it?" A long pause. Then the small figure emerged from behind the crates. She was tiny, maybe the size of a human 6-year-old, though Marcus had no idea how her species aged. Her silver skin was streaked with dirt, her clothes little more than rags. Her hair, if it could be called that, was a cascade of thin, crystalline strands that chimed softly when she moved. Her eyes were too large for her face, violet and filled with a wariness that no child should have to carry. She stared at him, clutching the empty wrapper. "Just one night?" "Just one night," Marcus agreed. "Then we'll figure out the rest." She took a hesitant step forward, then another. When she was close enough, Marcus slowly extended his hand. After a moment's hesitation, she placed her small, scaled hand in his dot. Her skin was cool to the touch, like smooth stone. She was trembling. "Come on," Marcus said softly. "Let's get you somewhere dry." They walked through the rain together, the small alien child's hand gripping his tightly. People passed them on the street, humans, Centauri, a group of Thalian merchants, but no one gave them more than a glance. In Port Meridian, strange pairings were common enough to be unremarkable. Marcus's apartment was 6 floors up in a building that had seen better decades. The elevator was broken, as usual, so they took the stairs. Neera climbed slowly, her legs shaking with exhaustion. When they finally reached his door, Marcus unlocked it and gestured inside. Home sweet home. Neera stood at the threshold, staring. It wasn't much a small living room, a kitchen alcove, 1 bedroom, everything worn and secondhand. But it was clean, warm, and the lights worked. "You can come in," Marcus said. "Really?" She stepped inside tentatively, as if the floor might give way beneath her. Her eyes darted to every corner, every shadow, cataloging exits and hiding places. Marcus closed the door gently. "Are you hungry?" "Really hungry, I mean. Not just protein bar hungry." Neera nodded, still watching him warily. "Okay, sit down. I'll make something." She perched on the edge of his couch like a bird ready to take flight. Marcus went to the kitchen and started pulling out supplies. Pasta simple, filling, and he could make it in his sleep. As the water boiled, he glanced back at her. She was still sitting rigid, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes never leaving him. "You can relax," he said. "I meant what I said. You're safe here." "People say lots of things," Neera replied quietly. "Not always true." Marcus couldn't argue with that. "You're right. So I'll show you instead. Deal?" She tilted her head, considering. "Deal." When the pasta was ready, Marcus brought her a bowl with some vegetables mixed in. She took it carefully, looking at it like she'd been handed something precious. Then she ate, slowly this time, savoring each bite. Marcus sat across from her with his own bowl. They ate in silence, the only sound the gentle patter of rain against the window and the distant hum of the station's infrastructure. When she finished, Neera set the bowl down and looked at him. "You live here alone?" "Yes." "Why?" "My wife died 3 years ago." "Oh." Neera's expression softened. "You lonely?" Marcus swallowed hard. "Sometimes, yeah." "Me too," she whispered. They sat together in the quiet apartment, 2 lonely souls who'd found each other in a dark alley on a rain-soaked night. Marcus didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He'd have to contact child services, file reports, try to find her mother or whoever might be looking for her. But tonight, she was here, safe, warm, fed Dot, and for the first time in 3 years. His apartment didn't feel quite so empty. "You can sleep in my room," Marcus said. "I'll take the couch." Neera looked toward the bedroom door, then back at him. Can I just stay here? On the couch? With you nearby?" Marcus understood. She didn't trust closed doors yet. Didn't trust being alone in unfamiliar spaces. "Of course," he said. He grabbed a blanket from the closet and wrapped it around her small shoulders. "Get some rest." I'll be right here. Nira curled up on the couch, pulling the blanket tight. Her crystalline hair spread across the cushion, catching the soft light from the kitchen. Within minutes, her breathing had slowed, evened out. Marcus sat in the chair across from her, watching her sleep. She looked so small, so fragile. What kind of universe let a child end up alone in an alley, starving and terrified? He thought of Catherine. She would have known what to do. She'd always been better with people, with emotions, with knowing the right thing to say. He was just a construction worker. What did he know about taking care of a child, let alone an alien one? But as he watched Nira sleep, something stirred in his chest. Something he'd thought had died with Catherine. Purpose. The rain continued to fall outside. But inside, for the first time in a long time, Marcus Webb felt like maybe, just maybe, he had a reason to wake up tomorrow. Morning light filtered through the thin curtains of Marcus's apartment, pale and gray. He woke with a stiff neck from sleeping in the chair, his body protesting the uncomfortable position. For a moment, he forgot why he hadn't slept in his bed. Then he saw her. Nira was awake, sitting upright on the couch, the blanket pooled around her waist. She was staring at him with those large violet eyes, perfectly still, as if she'd been watching him sleep for hours. "Morning," Marcus said, his voice rough. "You didn't leave," Nira said softly. "I told you I wouldn't. People break promises." Marcus sat up, rubbing his neck. "Some do. I try not to." She studied him for another long moment, then nodded slowly, as if filing this information away for future reference. Marcus stood and stretched. "Breakfast? You have more food?" The question hit him harder than it should have. "Yeah, Nira, I have more food. You can eat whenever you're hungry. You don't have to ask permission." She blinked at him, processing this. "Okay." While Marcus prepared breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, simple but filling, Nira wandered around the apartment. She moved carefully, touching things lightly as if they might break or disappear. She paused at the window, pressing one small hand against the glass. "What's out there?" she asked. More of the station. Markets, shops, other apartments. The docking bay is that way. He pointed. "Ships come and go all day. Can ships go anywhere?" "Depends on the ship. But yeah, pretty much anywhere in this sector." "Even to bad places?" Marcus turned from the stove. "What kind of bad places?" Nira's hand fell from the window. "The place where Mama was? Where they hurt people." Marcus's chest tightened. He wanted to ask more, but the fear in her eyes stopped him. "You don't have to talk about it." "I don't remember much," Nira said quietly. "Just cold. And darkness. And Mama crying sometimes when she thought I was sleeping." Marcus served the eggs onto 2 plates, giving her the larger portion. They ate together at his small table, and he watched her carefully taste each bite, as if still not quite believing the food was real and hers to keep. After breakfast, Marcus made the call he'd been dreading. Colony Services. He explained the situation: found child, no parents, possibly abandoned. The woman on the other end was professional, but distant. They'd send someone by the end of the week to assess the situation. In the meantime, he could provide temporary care. When he hung up, Nira was watching him from the couch. "They coming to take me?" she asked. "They're coming to help figure out what's best for you," Marcus said carefully. "I don't want to go to a facility. I heard about those. Kids in cages. Kids who disappear." "That's not," Marcus started, then stopped. He didn't actually know what the facilities were like. He'd heard stories too, and not all of them were good. "I won't let anyone put you in a cage. I promise you that." "Another promise?" "Yeah, another promise." Something in her small face softened. She nodded. The next few days fell into an unexpected rhythm. Marcus still went to work, but he cut his hours short, claiming family emergency. His supervisor grumbled, but allowed it. Nira stayed in the apartment while he was gone, and he left her his old datapad loaded with entertainment programs and educational content. When he came home each evening, she'd be waiting by the door, her face lighting up in a way that made his heart ache. They'd eat dinner together, and she'd tell him about what she'd learned that day, facts about Earth animals, human history, mathematics that she seemed to grasp far quicker than any 6-year-old should. "My people learn fast when we're young," she explained one night. "Mama said our brains are like sponges. We soak up everything." "Your people," Marcus repeated. "What are they called?" "Your species?" "Velani," Nira said. "From the outer reach, but there aren't many left now. The war took most of us." Marcus had heard rumors of the Velani situation, a species caught between two warring factions, their home world devastated, survivors scattered across the galaxy. Many had ended up in forced labor camps, disappeared into the black markets. He didn't say any of this to Nira. On the 4th night, after Nira had fallen asleep on the couch, her preferred spot, even though he'd offered her the bedroom multiple times, Marcus sat at his kitchen table with a glass of whiskey he'd been saving for a special occasion. Or a terrible one. He wasn't sure which this qualified. His life had been simple. Wake up, work, come home, sleep, repeat. No complications. No risks. No pain beyond the dull ache of loneliness. He'd learned to live with Dot. Now there was a child in his apartment. An alien child who drew pictures of stars and asked him why humans only had 2 eyes, and called him Marcus, in a voice that was starting to sound less afraid and more hopeful. He was in over his head. He had no idea what he was doing. But when he looked at her sleeping face, peaceful in a way it hadn't been that first night, he knew he couldn't let her go back into the system. Couldn't let her end up in some facility, or worse, fall back into whatever hell she and her mother had escaped from. The problem was, he didn't know how to stop it. Marcus was walking home from work on the 5th day when he felt it. The sensation of being watched. He'd learned to trust that instinct during his years working deep space construction, where a moment's inattention could mean death. He stopped at a corner vendor, pretending to examine fruit, and used the reflection in the stall's metal surface to scan the street behind him. There, a figure in a dark coat, hood up, standing too still among the moving crowd. Marcus bought an apple he didn't want and continued walking, taking a deliberately indirect route home. He turned down side streets, doubled back, wove through the market district. Each time he checked, the figure was still there. Distant, but persistent. His heart rate picked up. Someone was following him. The question was why. When he finally reached his building, Marcus didn't go inside. Instead, he circled around to the back alley, the same one where he'd found Nira, and waited in the shadows. 10 minutes later, the figure appeared at the mouth of the alley. Closer now, Marcus could see it wasn't as tall as he'd first thought. The figure limped slightly, favoring one leg. They paused, looking around as if trying to decide which way he'd gone. Marcus stepped out from the shadows. "Looking for something?" The figure spun, stumbling backward. The hood fell away. Marcus froze. It was a woman. Velani, like Nira, the same silver skin, the same crystalline hair, though hers was darker, almost black. Her face was gaunt, hollow-cheeked with hunger and exhaustion. A scar ran from her temple to her jaw. Her clothes were ragged, stained, and her eyes, those same violet eyes, were wide with fear and desperate hope. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, I just need to know. The child. The Velani child you found. Is she?" Her voice caught. "Is she alive?" Marcus's mind raced. This was Nira's mother. Had to be. The resemblance was too strong. But he didn't know this woman's intentions. Didn't know if she was running from something or toward something. Didn't know if bringing her to Nira would help or hurt. Who are you? He asked carefully. My name is Thisa. She took a trembling step forward. The child. Her name is Nira. She's 6 years old. She has a birthmark on her left shoulder that looks like a crescent moon. She hums when she's nervous. She's afraid of the dark, but pretends she isn't, because she thinks being afraid makes her weak. Every word was a knife to Marcus's chest. Only a mother would know these things. She's alive, Marcus said quietly. She's safe. Thisa's legs seemed to give out. She caught herself against the alley wall, one hand pressed to her mouth, her whole body shaking. Tears streamed down her face. Thank the stars. Thank the stars. I thought when I came back, and she was gone, I thought they'd taken her. Or she couldn't finish the sentence. She's at my apartment. 6 floors up. Building C. Marcus stepped closer. But you need to tell me what's going on. Who's after you? Why did you leave her in that alley? Thisa looked at him, and in her eyes he saw pain so deep it made his own grief look small. It's not safe to talk here. They have sensors, trackers. If they find me, they'll take her back. Who will? The people who owned us. The word owned settled over Marcus. Like a weight. Slavery. He'd known it still existed in the darker corners of the galaxy. But hearing it spoken aloud made it real in a way that news reports never had. Come with me, Marcus said. But we go quiet, and we go careful. Thisa nodded. They moved through the back ways, avoiding main streets and security cameras. Thisa could barely walk. The limp was worse up close, and Marcus could see blood seeping through the makeshift bandage on her leg. He wanted to offer to carry her, but sensed she wouldn't accept. Not yet. She was still operating on survival instinct, trusting nothing and no one fully. When they reached his building, Marcus helped her up the stairs. Each floor was an agony for her, but she never complained. On the 6th floor, at his door, she stopped. Is she really okay? Thisa whispered. UDIDN single quotes T ... hurt her? No, Marcus said firmly. I fed her, gave her a safe place to sleep, kept her warm. That's all. Thisa's eyes searched his face, looking for lies. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied her, because she nodded. Marcus unlocked the door and pushed it open. Nira was on the couch, curled up with the datapad, watching some educational program about Earth oceans. She looked up at the sound of the door opening, a smile already forming. Then she saw who was with him. The datapad fell from her hands, clattering to the floor. Mama? The word was so small, so disbelieving, so full of desperate hope that Marcus felt his throat close up. Thisa stood frozen in the doorway, as if moving might make this moment shatter like glass. Nira, my baby, my little star. Nira scrambled off the couch and ran. She collided with her mother so hard that Thisa stumbled backward. But she caught her daughter, wrapped her arms around her, and held on like she'd never let go. They sank to the floor together, Thisa pulling Nira into her lap, rocking her, crying so hard her whole body shook. Nira clung to her mother's neck, her small hands tangled in that crystalline hair, making broken sounds that were half sob, half laugh. You came back, Nira kept saying. You came back. You came back. Always, Thisa choked out. I'll always come back. Always, my star, always. Marcus stood back, giving them space. His eyes burned. He turned away, busied himself in the kitchen, giving them privacy for their reunion, even though his apartment was too small for true privacy. He'd done the right thing. Nira had her mother back. That was good. That was what mattered. So why did his chest feel so hollow? After a while, the crying quieted. Marcus heard soft voices, Thesa asking questions, Nira answering. Both of them talking over each other in the way of people who have too much to say and not enough time to say it. Finally, Thesa called out, "Marcus?" He turned. She was still on the floor, Nira in her lap, but she was looking at him now with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Thank you," she said. "I don't have words for what you've done. You saved her life. You saved both our lives." Marcus shook his head. "Anyone would have—" "No," Thesa interrupted firmly. "They wouldn't have. Most people walk past. Or they call authorities that ask too many questions. Or worse, they sell information to slavers for profit. You didn't do any of that. You took her in, kept her safe, asked for nothing." She paused. "Why?" Marcus looked at Nira, who was watching him with those big violet eyes. "Because she needed help. And I could give it. That simple? That simple." Thesa studied him for a long moment. Then she said, "We need to leave. Tonight, if possible. They're looking for us. I've seen their scouts in the district. Once they triangulate my position, they'll come. And they won't be gentle." "You can barely walk," Marcus pointed out. "I'll manage. Where will you go?" "I don't know yet. Somewhere off station. Somewhere they won't think to look." Marcus looked between mother and daughter, this reunited family that had been torn apart by cruelty and was still not safe. He thought about his empty apartment, his simple life, his careful routines designed to avoid risk and pain. Then he thought about Nira's face when he came home each evening. The way she'd started to smile. The picture she'd drawn of the two of them together, labeled Papa in shaky letters. He took a breath. "Or," Marcus said slowly, "you could stay here. Both of you. Just for a while. Until you're healed. Until we figure out something better." Thesa's eyes widened. "You can't mean that. You don't know us. You don't know what kind of danger." "I know enough," Marcus said. "I know you're running from slavers. I know you're hurt. I know your daughter has been sleeping on my couch for almost a week, and I've gotten used to having her around." He met Thesa's eyes. "I'm not asking you to stay forever. I'm asking you to stay until you have a real choice about where to go next." Thesa looked down at Nira, who was staring up at her with pleading eyes. "Mama, please," Nira whispered. "Marcus is good. He keeps promises. He makes real food. And he doesn't hurt people. The bar for good behavior is depressingly low," Thesa murmured. But when she looked back at Marcus, there were fresh tears in her eyes. "You'd really let us both stay?" "Yeah," Marcus said. "I really would." Thesa closed her eyes. A single tear tracked down her scarred cheek. "Okay, yes, thank you. Just until I can walk properly. Then we'll find somewhere else. I won't put you at risk longer than necessary." But even as she said it, Marcus could see the exhaustion in every line of her body, the bone-deep weariness of someone who'd been running for too long. He had a feeling, just until "I can walk" was going to turn into something longer. And strangely, he found he didn't mind. That night, Marcus gave Thesa his bedroom and took the couch himself. Nira insisted on sleeping with her mother, curled up against her side, like she might disappear if not held tight enough. Marcus lay awake in the dark, listening to the soft sounds of their breathing from the other room. His life had just gotten infinitely more complicated. He was harboring fugitives from slavers. He was responsible for not just one life now, but two. The smart thing would be to call colony services in the morning, turn them over to people with resources and training. But Marcus had tried Smart before. Smart had given him a safe, empty life. Smart had left him alone with his grief and his routines. This wasn't Smart, but it felt right. Outside, somewhere in the dark corridors of Port Meridian, people were hunting. And inside his small apartment, two refugees were finally sleeping soundly for the first time in months. Marcus closed his eyes and hoped he was strong enough for what was coming.